How long has it been since I talked about Vanguard again? Oh, 5 months? Oh, okay. I thought it's been a year already. Okay, I'm good. Hello, I am the Neos of softwares, and I was that person that talked about Cardfight Vanguard, specifically V-Series being bad. That video did pretty well, and I heard a lot of people, they wanted my sort of opinion on Overdress, or at least early Overdress in the video, or in the title actually. So, here we are. You saw the title, you saw I quit Overdress early, and you want to know why. Well, before I tell you, let me preface the video with this. Unlike the other video, I feel as though that my thoughts on Overdress, especially it being very early, my thoughts on Overdress are going to be completely different towards the majority of people that played Overdress. The V-Series video made it basically completely unanimous that a lot of people had a lot of problems with the game, and I was able to articulate it well in some degree. But for this video, I feel like it's very opinionated, especially since, you know, I quit Overdress early. I didn't even play it fully. Meaning that some taste when it comes to design, some things that I'm going to say, a lot of people would probably disagree. But I will do my best in order to give you guys a good reason of why I feel this way. I will also preface that this will not be talking about Divine Z or anything current. This is pretty much the earliest forms of Overdress. And I understand, because a lot of people say that the game is better now, especially with the energy system, especially with the cars that people are getting. Listen, let's just say I believe you. I'm not talking about that right now. And also, on top of that I will not be talking about the anime Overdress. If you guys want that, I can do that as a separate video. I think there would be way too much to talk about when it came to Season 1 Overdress. And if you wanted my general opinions about it, it's not fucking good. Also, and I keep saying also, just on top of the earlier point about the anime, every single individual slow version of Cardfight Vanguard that played the anime is better than Vanguard Overdress Season 1. I'm just going to put it right there. I'm just going to say it right there. Way better characters. Most of the characters are fucking... No. I don't want to get into a rant right now. If you want that video about Season 1 Overdress anime being bad, go into the comment section. I'll probably do it later. This will be about early Overdress, why I don't like it, and why I quit Vanguard in general because of it. I'm going to be talking about a lot of things. I'm going to try to make sure that a lot of you can understand where I'm coming from. Because again, I understand that this is even more opinionated than the original V-Series video. So, I've prefaced all that. I've given you all the time you need in order to either click off or to make sure that you're okay, that you can survive. So here we go. All right. So before we even get to the gameplay of Overdress and why I dislike it so much, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Clans versus nations. So to me, in my personal opinion, I did not think that nations were going to be what they were. Personally, I thought nations were going to be all of the older clans in one thing, trying to synergize with main units. What does that mean? Okay, I would say that if you ran certain cards in your deck, they would mimic old sort of abilities that older clans had, but they're designed for generic usage. So basically, if you were in United Sanctuary, you would get like a gold paladin card that had the ability to look at the top 3 and superior color unit. But as a direct sort of weakness to it, you have to bind the other 2 cards face down. Now, it probably shouldn't be as generic as that, but what I am saying is that I thought that nations were going to be a coalition of clans coming together in order to support each other in a generic way. And that for the most part, is not what nations are. Most cards in nations can really only support other cards of a specific Vanguard, which is weird because some Vanguards only have one specific mechanic they have to deal with that no one else in the clan does. Bastion only deals with grade 3s, so every single other thing that deals with a grade 3 has to go with Bastion. There's no other support cards in United Sanctuary that can do this. To me, this is weird because what is the point of nations then? If only certain cards go with certain decks, then like, why even? You should just do clans. The problem with clans was supposed to be that like, oh, we only get support like once a year. But it's the same thing with Overdress. You kind of just hope and pray that the grade 3 that you want to get support gets support. My friend Blazing Conquer was a Eugene main. He didn't get anything. So like, what's the point? If you made these generic cards that had the old clans, it means that you could have actually incorporated them in a sort of interesting way that people would have to deal with. Like, imagine if Bastion, right? Imagine if you use Bastion, right? And you had a United Sanctuary card, and it was like a Shadow Paladin card, and its ability was you sacrifice it and like 2 or 3 other guys in order to make your Vanguard get 1 more extra crit. That to me is way more interesting design than clans are right now, where you basically have the face commander of what you're doing, and you kind of just hope and pray that that thing gets supported. At that point, we're just dealing with clans again. Now it's just names. Like, we don't even get interesting generic cards when it comes to this. Most of, like, the generic cards in every single other nation just go into every single nation anyway and only raise the power level and raise consistency rather than doing anything unique. Again, look at this Shadow Paladin card. If you retire it itself and 3 other cards, you give your Vanguard a crit. It's interesting because it's not just, oh, I put this in Bastion and it also lets me draw a card and it also gives me power and no, you get this specific thing and there are weaknesses and sacrifices that you have to do in order to get this positive effect. I swear, this reminds me of V-Series all over again. Just generic cards that you put in your deck that you have to put in. Or, you know what, this kind of reminds me of, like, Commander, honestly. You just, every single other set, we just get a card that has, like, a lot of text on it that just increases the support, increases the power for no fucking reason, increases the consistency. Like, Jesus Christ. Overall, I don't like what nations are, because you have every single negative and none of the positives when it comes to nations. If you disagree with me, please tell me why, because I simply cannot see a reason of how nations were better in this regard, especially since it's still expensive to this very day. So yeah, me personally, nations was a bad idea, or it wasn't a bad idea, but it was just done poorly. I really did wish that they like made generic cards that can go into any deck, but are also interesting, rather than just boring, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's nations done. So, in this tab, we're actually going to go over some of the gameplay issues that I have with Overdress in general. Before we get to the actual cards, let's go with the mechanics that Overdress has introduced. And that would be persona riding and ride lines. Fuck me, this is gonna take forever, but it's okay. It's okay. That's why we're here. That's why we're here. We're here to air it out. We're here to air it out. I hate my life. Let's go with the more agreeable sort of disposition that I have. So let's talk about persona rides. Persona rides feel like because they couldn't do markers anymore because we hated them so much, it feels slapped on and boring. I'm not joking. It feels like they couldn't do anything actually interesting because markers were so wild in its conception. The only thing that it does is that you draw a card and there's 10k to the front row. That's it. That is so fucking boring that I don't even know where to start. It's literally just power and a draw. Literally just power and a draw. There's nothing like interesting going on with this sort of mechanic. There's no like both of us gotta be at grade 3, one of us gets a different ability like striding. We don't fight for resources. It's like, what? You've gotta be shitting me. And wait, also, wait. Go back to that point. We still haven't fixed V's mistakes. So both of us don't fight for Persona? One person could just go first, Persona ride, and completely fuck over the person that goes second? Is this just like Diet V era? I know that sounds harsh, but that's what I feel like this is. This feels like Diet V era because we can't be V era anymore. We made so many mistakes. The fucking card pool is so bad and so fucking overpowered that we just had to make Diet V era. It's not even interesting. And that's what Persona Riding is it's not interesting. And not only that, you don't fight for... Why can't you fight for Persona Riding? It's been in almost every single aspect of the game except V and maybe the first fucking season of Vanguard. That is the only time we have never fought in order to get a mechanic. Why do we keep doing this? If I keep going with this, I'm just going to repeat myself. So, yeah. Persona Riding is boring. It doesn't do anything. It feels like a design that you had to do because V era was too prudent and you didn't actually want to do anything like interesting. So, there. I'll leave it there. Persona Riding is boring. What is the second thing that people really did? Oh yeah, ride lines. Okay. So, I understand what they were going for with ride lines. I understand that in Overdress specifically, you didn't want to funnel people into one single deck, and maybe you wanted to at least give them the option in order to run different cards. So you let them do whatever they want in Overdress, but unfortunately, you make it so in Premium, they cannot have a ride line. I understand that at like a surface level. However, there's something that doesn't make sense. Okay, again, I'm talking about early Overdress. I believe I've heard that later on in Overdress, there was actually times where you put in new sort of ride lines that you put in your decks, or maybe you run some old cards and some new cards and maybe you put them in. That's what I've heard. I don't know if it's true, but that's what I've heard. However, either way, I still don't like that. Again, Overdress was about like the named card that you have, not necessarily the nation that you ran. So most of the cards that you would run only would fit one card either way. So to me, it seemed way better of a strategy in order to just say for Bushiroad, hey, you can only run this chain on this chain on this chain of cards when you pick your persona, not your persona, when you pick your ride line. Maybe the ride line would have the same name, but like maybe it's a different heart card and maybe a different grade so that we can differentiate it, I guess. But I don't see why you wouldn't do something like that over, oh, you could just pick any ride line you want and put them into your your zone. Of course you wouldn't put it in Premium. If you could just pick any card you want and put it in the ride line, of course it would be busted. But it wouldn't be busted if it had to be a specific chain of cards. Honestly, I think it's bad, honestly. I feel like before then, there was a lot of things you could have done in Premium with the ride line. It's just that because you could put any card that you want, of course it would be broken. Maybe it's just me being a salty sailor, but when I heard the ride line, I literally made a Zeal prison deck, and that was like a very fun deck to play. It's just too bad that that deck idea is literally in the garbage because you can't run a ride line in premium because it would just be broken. When they could have just said, hey, these heart cards, they'll be the same name, but it'll be different heart cards, different grades. You can only run these cards together in a ride line. You cannot do anything else. But no, we can't have fun apparently. I know some people would disagree with me in this sort of thing. I understand that. I really do. Maybe it would be busted even then. I'm just saying, doing it like this makes it boring as hell. And I think that's gonna be the main theme about Overdress. It's just fucking boring. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I understand why they made ride lines the way they are. I even also like the fact that you can discard a card and just write it from the deck. Or not the deck, but the zone, I guess. But you know what I mean. That aspect of things, really good, because nobody likes the G-assist, you know? So it's like, I understand. But I think this mechanic could have been a lot better, and it could have been a lot dealt with, and I really think we could have had it in Premium if you just designed it a different way. I don't know why you did it like this, but okay. Okay, the next part is technically not a mechanic, but I really have nowhere else to put it. When I could put it in the gameplay. Fuck it, I'll just talk about it anyway. Grade 1's being 5k shield. Why? That's the question out of the day. Why? Most of these cards can get like 30k to like even more power sometimes, even in the trial deck versions. Why did you make grade 1's only 5k? This doesn't make any sense. Why would you increase power but also decrease shields? Why? That, above all else, I believe everyone agrees with. The 5k shield, I think everyone agreed with that. It was a fucking mistake. Those were the sort of mechanics of the game that I wanted to talk about at least a little bit because... How do I put this? On a fundamental level, when these things are not specifically broken, but like bad or badly designed, you create problems in the future. And if you don't snip these in the bud, you'll just make your future worse. So that is why I bring it up, and that's why I hope people can understand why I'm being so critical about them, because mechanics are important, and if you screw them over, you can't just redo them. But whatever, let's go on to the rest of them. And here's where I hope I can really make this apparent to you of why I dislike this thing. So, Overdress in general, I don't really enjoy because from the design aspect of the cards, it's just so fucking strange. Old mechanics that are brought back are not innovated on or are given to the wrong sort of clan. New mechanics are bland. This, by itself, could be the main reason why I fucking hate Overdress Early. But let's get into it softly, because I need to explain myself. I'm just going to talk about Bastion again, because it's easy. And I'm going to be real honest with you. Why the fuck does it deal with grade 3s? For all this time, like V-Series and also G has made Royal Paladin's main gimmick for supporting allies be putting grade 2s on the battlefield. We've been getting that for so long and so consistent, especially with Alt Mile. Why step on Dimensional Robo's toes and do grade 3s? You might as well have saved the grade 3 aspect of the mechanic and just save it for the actual clan that it deals with. I know this seems like a very small thing, but to me, it's really not. Again, clans were banned from the start. So, not only were clans the idea banned from the start, but you're also giving old mechanics that were from other guys and you're putting it into things that don't really make any sense. But okay, if the people in the comment section don't like that, don't worry. That is like the least of my worries when it comes to old mechanics. Because old mechanics that are brought back aren't even innovated on. And it's kind of stupid. What do I mean by this? Okay, so people have been complaining for years that Dragon Empire is so bad, and it's pretty much like Overlord or bust for the most part. To me, the reason why that this is the case is because the mechanics of that deck is pretty underpowered. Just retiring is not gonna get you anywhere. You have to do something alternative or something that is actually interesting in order for it to be a decent mechanic. I'm going to talk about this a lot, but it really feels like the only actual deck that is interesting to play in early Overdress is Prison. And the reason why is because the tug of war of resources is fun. Or at least it was. Again, we'll get to that later. These old mechanics do not fucking innovate at all, and it's just regular. It's just retiring. It's just Really? We can do so much more with this. Hey, this is a thought. It's not perfect, but here's a thought. How about you have the retiring effect, and if there's nothing else to retire, you get a bonus effect? Or how about this? How about the ability says the opponent sacrifices a specific grade card or a unit they want, or they get to choose that you have the better effect. So, do you retire the card, or are you going to give them power? Are you going to retire the card, or give them a draw? Are you going to retire the card, or this? And if you can't do the retiring, you automatically get the other benefit. This, to me, is way more interesting than just stupid ass just retiring. Look at Eugene. You rest 2 units, you get 10,000 power, and you retire a card. I get it. He also has an ability where you Soul Blast 5 and you can just, like, superior call cards. But it's like, this is not interesting. I've seen this card before. This card doesn't interact with the opponent as much as Prison does. And yes, I'm using that as a benchmark. In the other video, I was talking about how there's a few cards that are actually interesting that are kind of control variants that, guess what, the opponent has to deal with differently and has to think about their plays. I just want that in Vanguard with the old mechanics, and they don't do that. The new ones aren't better either because they're boring as hell. Look at Bruce, for example. Bruce is terrible. This was my start deck that I got, and wow, I was so bewildered at how boring this clan is. Your ability or your main mechanic is just, one turn I stand here and do nothing, and now my ability activates. A lot of you would probably clown on Yu-Gi-Oh, but I don't know, the fact that Vanguard literally took from Gemini monsters is kind of fucking insane. I'm not taking that back, by the way. Bruce is literally just a Gemini monster. This is like the worst thing. I honestly thought that new cards like Ghidorah was going to be very interesting, and it turns out it's not. All it is cards you search for, then you put in the soul, and then you soul blast it, and then maybe you get some retiring. That's not... With a mechanic like this, I thought you would go bold and brash, and this is belong to the trash. I thought it would be at least a little interesting, like, I don't know, instead of Ghidorah only using it for attacking, maybe they also use it for defense. Maybe she has a list of abilities that she can do on the opponent, but it depends on what cards you have in hand in order to discard. That way Vanguard is less so, you know, your turn and then my turn, and there's some actual interaction going on in the game rather than just staring at an opponent's advantage. Every single form of arena is just so boring. It's basically just making another Vanguard in the rearguard circle. That's literally most of the effects. They're not fucking interesting. Orphis literally has basically the same gimmick as Neo Nectar. Mind you, not only did they take what Neo Nectar are, but they also still made it boring to play. They made tokens boring to play. Amazing. And hell, even the other 2 trial deck cards, like, I don't understand how these cards are interesting at all. If your name was not Prison or your name was not freaking Greedon, there was nothing else that I wanted to know how to play. And you know, I like Greedon, but honestly, the reason why I played it was primarily because it was soul charging, but it actually had like kind of a downside. You can't just attack with the cards and then put them to the soul. You're building it into one unit, which is somewhat interesting. It's not as interesting as I want it to be, but it's something. And Prison just blows it out of the water, at least in the trial deck version, because, you know, it's actually fun to play. It's fun to deny someone's resources. It's nice the fact that they can get it back with enough sort of investment in order to put in. You know, I wanted this for a little bit more decks. If I couldn't have every single clan be a sort of either control or like some kind of effect that sort of interacted with the board in some way, can we at least have more than just Prison? I don't even know what I'm talking about, because like, even though I love Prison, I freaking hated the day that they got new support. Because to me, getting support in Overdress kind of feels like V-Series. You pick a deck that you quote-unquote like, and you kind of hope and pray that it gets support, but even when it does, it feels like rather than upgrade the deck sideways, we're always upgrading decks upways. Like, we're not giving old decks new tech in order to use against someone. We're giving them more power, more draw, more crit, and more consistency. Now, some of you may be like, oh, are these not good things that you should give to people? And also, why does it even compare to V-Series anyway? Well, here's why. This was only a few sets afterward. This wasn't like a whole year, you know? This wasn't like a whole year and then they got a new card that maybe gives them more power. No, it was like 3 sets later. You pair that with the fact that grade 1s only had 5k shield, and it really feels like this was just Diet V-Series. Every time someone gets support, it's nothing but upping the power creep. It's not giving us new tools. It's not making it so that we can fight against other decks. It is so we could just power creep the cards more, so you just buy more sets. It's fucking annoying. This is Diet V-Series. This is Diet V-Series. This is Diet V-Series. This is just Diet V-Series. As soon as Prison got more support, the gimmick actually did not matter. Because it was very consistent in order to put things into the Prison, or the fact that you can even put cards from hand into Prison, fucking, it's just stupid. It reminds me of Narukami. It's not, you're decreasing people's defensive modes and not building upon it with any interesting mechanics at all. Which sucks because with the trial deck version of the card, I believe there was one card that said that you could prison something if you actually hit someone, which is actually pretty nice. I wish hit skills were more in the game because it would actually be a way in order to balance certain effects, but we just can't have that anymore. It's just counterblast, do the effect, always get power, always get crit, always get this. It's just like, it's so fucking boring. Who cares? Who cares? I care, because it makes the game fucking boring. Every single time that I played against someone, it was just so boring that I didn't feel like I was a part of the game. I didn't feel like I was interacting with anything. I feel like I was just playing solitaire, and this is coming from a Yu-Gi-Oh player. Think about it. All of early Overdress had cards that were just not. They were just boring. They weren't exciting to face. They didn't have Magic the Gathering levels of depth. They didn't have anything that I could actually grab onto so that I could play and have an interesting game. So you put that with the overwhelming amount of just power creep of set after set after set, just trying to make cards better and more consistent and more power and more draw. And it's just like, why play? Hell, it's even worse when people don't get the support that they want. Again, I had a person, the Blazing Conqueror, the only card he wanted to play from Dragon Empire was Eugene. And Eugene's support was fucking scarce. I didn't even think Eugene was even that, like, it wasn't even that interesting of a deck. But that doesn't mean I didn't want my bro to at least play it. But everyone else can get a shiny new toy, and everyone else can get power, crit, draw, and it's just whatever. It makes it even worse when we already had, like, basically 2 reboots, right? We basically had 2 reboots, and we still can't get away from the past. I'm not going to talk specifically about the support with crests, because at that point I just didn't play the game anymore, so I can't say anything about crests. But encounter cards before that just proved to me that Bushiroad just did not give a single shit about this product, really. They do not care, because if they did, they would just let the new product rock, and this is it. We don't need to nostalgia bait them, but guess what? They do it anyway. They had so less confidence in themselves that they had to show us fucking Blaster Dark again. They had to show us Phantom Blaster Dragon. They had to show us fucking Dragonic Vanquisher again. They just can't help themselves. Don't get me wrong, I love Dragonic Overlord, or not really him, but I love his effect because, you know, hitting rear guards is fucking funny as hell, because, you know, they can't really, like, guard against it, so that's pretty funny. But again, they had no confidence. They had no confidence in this thing selling. They had no confidence of the new era actually catching on, that they just put old cards into this thing. I understand I'm not going to talk about Crest, but it still kind of proves the point that they essentially had no fucking confidence. I think the theme out of this thing is just that Overdress is just boring to play. Most mechanics that were from old support or new effects that happen now are just boring as hell and have no creativity. None of the mechanics of the game are actually fun to play. Fucking Persona Ride is boring. Ride Lines is boring. There's 5K shields. It's like, it's just, everything is boring. The card design is boring. The mechanics are boring. How did people want me to play this game? It's so weird, because I only played 2 months, count them, 2 months of freaking BuddyFight, and I have had more fun in those 2 months with playing with my friends of BuddyFight than anything in V-Era and anything in Overdress. And I basically played BuddyFight when it was dead. I heard it was dead from my friend, and I was like, well, might as well start a deck now, I guess, since nobody's gonna play it with you, and I'm here, so I guess I can play it with you. I have had more fun, and there's more things to do in that fucking game in 2 months than fucking years of V-Series and any amount of time that I played Overdress. If anyone wants me to talk about BuddyFight, please comment down below, because I feel like BuddyFight is fucking underrated in every aspect. It has better mechanics than this fucking game. It is actually enjoyable to play. There's actual strategy in it. Fuck, I wish I was playing BuddyFight right now. I fucking wish. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about fucking early Overdress. Fuck me. Overdress, I know I didn't play until, like, Crest. I know. So, like, maybe my opinion is screwed. But, like, come on, dude. There's nothing about this game that is fucking interesting. Listen, we all understand that V-Era was terrible, but I can at least show you, like, 10, maybe 15 different decks that actually interact with the opponent and are interesting. The only reason why they are not played is because of the power creep. In here, it's basically the same thing, except every single goddamn card that is a grade 3 is fucking boring to play unless you were Prison. And guess what? Even when you were interesting to play in Prison, it doesn't matter, because once you get more support and make it consistent and make it so basically the mechanics don't matter, then it doesn't matter if this thing is interesting, because now you made this mechanic uninteresting because of the advantage that you get from it. It fucking sucks. There was no meat on this bone in order to latch to. I am playing currently Magic the Gathering EDH, and I could not list how fun and interesting this fucking gameplay is. You can build your deck around something, or at least around a commander. You can interact with the opponent in a lot of ways with like counter spells and like reaction cards and things like that. And you can actually build upon your strategy and, you know, be with the opponent and actually interact with them and not stare at them and play solitaire. The effects of the cards are interesting, or you can at least make them interesting if they're not. The mechanics of the game make sense and they're fun to play against. And that's really all I wanted, you know? That's all I wanted from Overdress. I just wanted a game that was fun, and I just didn't get that. I got a game that's, like, basically a dime a dozen. I've seen this gameplay before. I've seen these effects before, but they're extremely watered down. It's just boring. That's really it. Overdress, or at least early Overdress, because I didn't really play a ton. Overdress was just boring. Like, how could I even dream of just staying with this product when I was already burned with V-Series? I thought V-Series was the last one, but like fucking trash to a pig, I fucking came back for some reason. I came back and I was not rewarded at all. The mechanics are fucking disinteresting. The cards are fucking disinteresting. So I left. I left pretty early, and I understand it was pretty early. A lot of people said that I left as soon as it was starting, to get good. Some people say crests are good. I don't know. I feel like I wouldn't like them. Divine Sea is here. It's been here for a few months, a year. I don't even know. I'm that away from Vanguard that I don't know if Divine Sea has been here for a full year yet. I've heard the energy system's okay, I guess, but like, when I say this, I don't mean it in the internet terrible way, but who cares? Seriously, I don't mean any disrespect when I say this, but literally, who cares? I have been burned enough by Vanguard. Why would I give it a fucking third chance? I've already been burned. Divine Sea, to me, would have to be literally perfect. It would have to literally be perfect, have interaction up the wazoo, all the mechanics are fucking great. It would have to be the utopia of card games in order for me to even give it a smidgen of chance to play. And I'm gonna get the feeling that it's not. I feel like, again, because I've never played it, so I can't really, make any advances, but I feel as though that Divine Z is probably not good, and it's just better than Overdress and better than V-Series, so that's where people put it at, when being better than these things are really nothing. But again, I wouldn't know. Never played it. And, I guess the reason why I'm so toxic right now is because I'm remembering all the things the company has done. Fucking V-Era, fucking Overdress. It's all shit. It's why I quit early. Because it's not gonna, to me, it's not gonna get any better. Again, I just talked about BuddyFight, but it really sucks that I wasn't a part of this game or part of that game in its heyday, because I really felt like I would have loved BuddyFight if I actually was just there from the beginning, but I didn't know anything about it at the time. I literally only knew about it from my friends, so. And it's dead now. It's a dead game now. Sure, I have this deck. I'll show a bunch of the cards that I have. I have a deck. But it's not like I can really play with anyone. You know what I mean? I've said this countless times. It's going to be the last point. The reason why I quit Overdress early was just because it's boring. There's nothing here for me. And clearly there wasn't. Because I'm playing other stuff right now. Hell, I'm even making my own card game. So it's like, imagine being so over Yu-Gi-Oh! And Vanguard that you just decide that you want to make your own card game. Like, that's where I was at the time. So yeah, now you know everything. You know why I left early, and now you can you can judge for that. I understand that some people actually like these cards. Some people don't believe that this card game is boring. And you know what? More power to you, because at least you can actually be happy about something. Me personally, I just don't see it. I don't see it. I don't see it at all. I don't see how anyone could really like this game. And I honestly don't know how these YouTubers can just keep going and keep playing this game. Because to me, there's nothing interesting here. The well has dried up. And it's been dried up for a while. So, yeah. But now you all know, you know? Now you all know why that I quit Overdress Early. And you know what? Even if you don't agree, at least you can somewhat sympathize why I did it. So yeah. I guess that's really it. If anyone wants, you know, maybe a BuddyFight video, because I actually enjoyed that card game a lot. So if anyone wants the BuddyFight video, I can whip that up. I don't know much about it. You know, I only played at the end. But I could probably explain to you why that game was magical, you know? Or maybe, just maybe, some people are interested in the card game that I made. Maybe they want a video on that. I don't know. I don't know how people react to these sorts of things. But, you know. I'm just glad. And even if you don't want that. And even if you don't like and subscribe and shit like that. I'm just glad you listened. You know, you took the time out of your day. You could have just watched anything else. You could have watched a stupid ass. You could have watched a Pyrocynical video, I guess. You could have done that. But instead, you know, you stayed here for some nerd that just likes card games too much. And, you know, I appreciate that. Either way, thanks so much for watching. Hopefully, I can see you again. Take care, alright?